Welcome to the 4th and 4 podcast, sponsored by Inside the Leather Custom Putter Covers. Search Inside the Leather Shop on Etsy. Use promo code podcast to save 20% on your purchase. I'm Donald Lawrence. Our guest today is Jim Creech, who spent 20 years as the head Dulles Viking, roaming the sidelines. Welcome to the podcast, Coach.
I appreciate it, Coach. Thank you.
All right. I'm starting you off hot. From 1994 to 2013, you were the guy. That was a lot of good football in the Houston area. Who are the best three players you coached against?
Oh, goodness. From 94, golly, Coach, I can tell you teams. Can't necessarily tell you, individuals. We played some a good team that first season in 94 when I became the head coach. We were able to make a pretty decent run, went to the quarterfinals, and played against, very, very good Madison team. We were very fortunate to win that game at the end. You were going to go to a 4th and 4. We ended up having a situation. We'll talk about it later. But, this Madison teams, and we played some really good teams in Fort Bend, Elkins, Willow Ridge. Some really, really good football teams. Over there in Cy-Fair, we played Cy-Fair for seems like forever, and they had some really, really good football teams also. But I can't actually be specific about certain players. Just a lot of, then obviously a lot of good football players.
Right. How many state championships do you play in that 20-year run, like teams that went on to play in the state championship that season?
Well, we played in 94. We played Galveston Ball. They ended up getting beat by a team that was quarterbacked by some guy. I don't know. I think his name was Drew something. He played for the New Orleans Saints. Pretty good quarterback. We would end up playing against them. But we played. I don't know how many teams actually played state championship games. I don't know that we did. We made a couple of runs, but not like that.
Was that back in the Astrodome days in the playoffs?
Used to play in the dome a lot. Actually, we played in a lot of playoff games. Actually had the Astrodome come to me in the early 90s, where they ended up putting a plaque up on the wall somewhere back in there in the Astrodome with some pretty big games that we played. Then we played in 1991. We played the state championship against Killeen. Got beat last minute, that type thing. And but we played a lot of games in the Astrodome. Played a lot of good football teams.
I think that's probably when I first met you. I was a kid growing up, and my dad used to take me to the Dome.
Yeah.
We'd go for the 10 a.m. kickoff, and we wouldn't come home till probably 10 p.m.
You used to play in those games, and you think you would have a 3 o'clock game, and it ended up starting at 7. Or you thought you were having a 7 o'clock game, and it ended up starting at 10.
Right.
Seemed to be on schedule. But it was always awesome. Everybody at that time wanted to get to play in the Astrodome, no doubt.
Oh man, I remember as a kid, I was always fascinated with Eisenhower. They'd come out in the all black when they were the home team, and they were rocking. Their fans was rocking. Their band was rocking, and I just remember thinking that is the most intimidating group of guys that I could imagine being in here.
In 1993, we played Eisenhower the second round, and they ended up playing Judson and Astrodome. Ended up being a tie, and I think Judson won it on, penetration, first down, whatever it was, back in those days. Good. And I've said this day, and that's been 30 years ago or so, but in that game played in the Astrodome in 1993 between Eisenhower and Judson was the state championship game right there. Judson went on to win the state championship. We ended up getting a snot kicked out of us by a very good Eisenhower team that I thought, and I thought we were really, really, really good. And we were just pretenders because they ran through us like, stuff through a goose. Unbelievable. Had a really, really good linebacker named uh, 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 Jason Hanley. And I played middle linebacker for us, started for us for 2 years of defensive end. The senior year, he was a touchdown club finalist for player of the year, middle linebacker. We're filling the trap, and Jason steps up, and he just, hits the fullback right in the mouth. Quarterback pulls it and goes about 60. And coach up in the box asked me, he said, what happened there? And I said, well, the best football player that we have on the football team just got hit right in the jaw, and we're lined up for every point. They were really, really good.
Yeah, I remember, not long after that, 97, I think the 97 season was Eisenhower-Katy, and probably one of the greatest high school football games ever played when Katy won their first state championship, or I guess their second. They had one back in the 50s or whenever.
Yeah.
What a game that was.
Oh, in 97, we were projected to be really, really good. Coming in the season, we were ranked in the top 5 and ended up losing a couple of really key players late in the year, and didn't finish very well. I think we were like 8-2 or something. Ended up not getting in, and but that's the year. Elkins had a really good football team. May Creek had a really good football team. Hastings had a freaking really, really good football team.
That was another one they'd show up in the all black.
Yeah. Oh, we played Hastings forever. I remember calling Bobby Stewart one time on a Saturday morning after we played them, and we used to talk all the time. And he said, "How's it going, Coach?" I said, "What do you think? How's it going?" He just literally put all my kids in knee braces and said, and tell you that my parents insisted that I call child protection services on you. So be expecting some child protection service personnel coming to talk to you about the way that you abused our last night. They line up. I mean, they were just, how it was back in the L6 was the same way.
Elsa Grams, man. Yeah.
That blue monster that they had. Really good football teams. Houston is still really, really good, but you go back into some of those times, that was some great football.
That was. And what a place to show it off in the Astrodome at that time. I mean, everything was awesome about it except for that damn turf.
And the other thing is, if you wanted to find anybody, or especially coaches, just go to the end zone, and that's where and I'm sure they had. That's where y'all sit too, because that's where congregated sitting in playoff games in the Astrodome, and like you said, from 10 in the morning till didn't get out of there till after almost midnight on a Saturday. So pretty awesome.
Yes, sir, man. Well, I was doing a little bit more research on you for this podcast. I came across a picture on your Twitter feed, 1978, part of the Pearland staff, which I didn't know. Yep. I didn't know you were part of the Pearland staff back in those days. So it kind of got me wondering, where'd you grow up? Where'd you play at? Talk about that a little bit.
I went to a little town in South Texas, Bishop High School. Bishop's a little bit north of Kingsville, King Ranch type stuff. South of Corpus, about 35 miles. Went to Stephen F. Austin for a bit, ended getting hurt and ended up back at A&I and finished up there. Just didn't play. Got my degree. I actually, and this kind of is off track a little bit, but I actually always wanted to be a golf pro.
No, this is right on track. We need some more of this.
I grew up playing football, and I played a little bit of golf, and I went to work for a guy named Tommy Aycock, who was the head golf pro at Claybrook County Golf Course in Kingsville. And I was a pretty decent player, and I got even better under his guidance. And so I was thinking about really seriously going that direction. And this is all towards the end of my college days, and we talked about it in a couple of instances. And it's golf clubs, and I'm talking about golf courses and personnel that inhabit golf courses. Like the haves and the have-nots of people. Anyway, long story short, Tommy told me that it would probably be, and it wasn't I had done all my required hours and my playing. Back in those days, you had to do I believe it was 2 rounds, and the total had to be like 148, 150, something like that. Anyways, something along those lines. You had so many hours off the professional. I had finished all that, but anyway, long story short, that it went a different direction, and so I ended up getting a job at Pearland, which I had never heard of. South Texas. I couldn't even find it on the map. I had no idea how to get there or anything. I was playing golf one afternoon with the attendant at schools at Odom, and we were talking. And he said, "So how's the job search going?" And I said, "Well, I got an interview next week in Pearland. Pearland, idea where it's at." He said, "Oh yeah, Pearland, it's up there south of Houston on I-35, I guess." And he said, gave me directions on how to get up there. So I drove up and ended up, getting a job and went to work at football staff. I ended up becoming the head golf coach too because of my background in golf. But Joe Shefty and I first met there. He was on staff there also.
I didn't know that. I need to go back and find him in that picture.
Joe and I were freshman football coaches together from 78 through 82. Well, we were there together from 78 and we left in 82. So yeah, he was in my wedding, I was in his wedding. We were, it was a good time. Pearland wasn't Pearland then, like it is, of course. I mean, we had like 9 coaches, coached everything, and every coach, coached football, and you did freshman football at 6 o'clock in the morning. You did varsity football after school, and you didn't have a conference period, and you didn't have, and you just worked and painted sleds and
did to work uphill both ways, coming home.
Pearland Oilers. Joe and I went to a reunion back last fall. So the class of '82 was our last. I guess was our last season. So, yeah, I keep up with a lot. Facebook's a great thing, as far as trying to keep up with people, and I not really do. I was young and single and stupid, and life was good. I really didn't want to leave. We just going to Dulles.
Speaking of that, all right, so, and let's just focus on the 20 years of head coaching, right? So 94 to 2013, right? Okay, so 94 to 2013, man, all the changes, okay, from playoff format, practice regulations, blocking rules, schemes, tempo of offenses. What are 2 or 3 of probably the biggest changes that impacted you as a head coach and really made you kind of reorganize or do things a different way?
Well, I think the first thing was how quick we were building high schools in the 90s and even into the 2000s. But that will change your direction on everything that you do. It's like coaching at an Air Force base, and you have kids, and maybe for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden you don't have those kids anymore because they've been transferred. And you're in a multiple school district. You understand how this is like. Really, grown a lot, and you have divisions and separation as far as boundaries and so forth. That probably, as much as anything, impacted everything that we did at Dulles for a lot of years. In the fact that for you either reload or you would re-educate, and almost you were completely starting over, and that had a lot to do with a lot of the things that we did. Just the fact that they built so many high schools so quickly. We were, when I got the job in '94, they had just opened up Elkins, completely split. I mean, we went to state finals in '91. We were really good in '93. Coach Bell left, and that spring to go to Nacogdoches,
right,
late in the spring of '94, and and there's no doubt that a lot of that was because of how Elkins had split us and so forth. So it was going to be one of those type gigs. But what ended up happening was that they split Willowridge, and Willowridge through the '70s and the '80s when they opened up, and they were just crazy good with Thurman Thomas, and just a list of outstanding players for a number of years. They split Willowridge, and we got a lot of those kids, a lot of those neighborhoods that used to go to Willowridge came to Dulles, and we didn't, and we got really good there in the mid-90s, because the fact that we, they split us through Elkins, but we were able to, replenish into that. That was a big part of it. For a long time we were a wing T team. We were an I team, then we were a wing T team, and eventually in 2003, because of the lack of so forth, we ended up running spread, and a lot of that was because we had athletes. We didn't have the alignment that we needed to have and to run the football and do those things, and so we had a lot of defensive backs, wide had really good strong arm quarterbacks, left hand. And so we decided, we're going to start running the spread, and we did. And through the 2000s, we were, pretty successful offensively. Had some really good players. Cotton Turner was a quarterback that we had in the mid 2000s that played at U of H. Threw for a lot of yard couples, led the city in past couple of seasons. We had really good receivers go to Michigan. We had defensive backs. The way we were doing our wide receiver, we were losing a lot of kids to basketball because we were running the league. You grab it, say, okay, let's play 6-4 track. And you mirror stalk cut off, and then you run off the field, got the next guy. And you grab this guy over. Oh, no, not you. We're throwing the ball this way. So come here.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the way that it went. But we ended up having some of the kids were going thinking, well, we won't come back after basketball. So we start throwing the football, and then those players started staying around because we were playing basketball on grass, and they could actually practice that and do that in the summer and 7-on-7 and all those things. And it's hard to do inside drill and get your kids to do inside drill by themselves, in July when you're running with these stuff and you're not throwing the ball. We wanted to start it off 7-on-7. If we wanted to get further back than just a quick three-step drop, we had to run whack,
right.
And we're faking a handoff 7-on-7 just so the court goes through the motion so you can get a little bit of depth.
Yeah.
And, you don't sometimes have time to get rid of the football. So because we're not running the shotgun. So there were some things in there that because of the growth and because of personnel, we were we weren't constantly doing things. We were constantly. I think a lot of times just convincing kids that this. Uh, I know the gym's air conditioned, but football's a good thing to do also.
Absolutely, and that is a huge thing to get those kids out of the gym. I
Yeah,
mean, how many 6'2" Division I wide receivers are they compared to 6'2" Division I basketball players?
for a long time we went through a run of defensive backs and wide receivers and defensive ends and linebackers. We had uh, John uh, John Phillips was a great lineman for us. Was a All-American with the UCLA Defensive Player of the Year, and played defensive end. Tim Washington went to LSU, great defensive player. Many really really good linebackers, wide receivers going to Michigan and all over the place. Defensive backs going all over the country. Um, but and we break that both when we were running the wing T and run the spread, but it just seemed to open up more when we started throwing the football and spreading it out a little bit. And it also got a little bit more exciting, a little bit, you have some of those games that end up being, 48, 52, and you never saw that when you were, running wing T because clock management and so forth. So, but having, a lot of really good athletes, and we were at those high schools. A lot of great.
You mentioned a name a few minutes ago that was trying to connect the gaps earlier, and that's Coach Bell, right?
Yeah.
So I was trying to remember y'all's connection, and I remembered Coach Bell from Nacogdoches, and I remembered him as AD in A-Leaf, but I forgot because I was like 7 or 8 at the time when he was at Dulles.
Right.
What did he mean to you? And the reason I'm asking is because growing up, I remember coaches getting together, a couple cold ones, shrimp boil, something on the grill. I didn't see, I was a kid, so I didn't see the grind, right? I didn't see the 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., but I saw the hospitality and the fellowship afterwards.
Right. Ronnie Bell, I had known Ronnie when we were at Dulles, and actually, Ronnie, I actually knew him when he was the head coach of Clear Lake. He was at Clear Lake 70, and after he left Hayden Fry at SMU, he got the Clear Lake job. Ended up leaving there, went into sporting goods for about 3 months, and found out that Ronnie didn't want to sell baseball equipment, so we tried to hire him. At Maryland, it ended up not working out. Went with a high school friend of his, Benny Carter, who was a head football coach at Dulles at the time. This was in the late, probably this 1980, maybe. Benny Carter ended up getting just an AD's job before Ben with Buddy Hobson, and Ronnie got moved into the head coaching job in 1982. And then that's when I ended up, we were all dividing up. Joe went to deputy. I was looking for a job. Ronnie offered me a job. That's another one. Didn't know where Dulles was either. We played against it, but at that time, Dulles High School was out in the middle of nowhere. It's like Pearland. Can you imagine Pearland before 288 was there?
Right.
I was there. 288 wasn't there. So getting to Third Land and play Dulles High School at Mercer Stadium trip. And so anyway, ended up at Dulles with Ronnie when he got the job. Ronnie was a huge influence on my life, no doubt about that. Coached with him as an assistant from 82 to 90, 93, 82, 93, and he left. Went to Nacogdoches as the AD and head football job, but I called Ronnie when he came back. He was at Nacogdoches. I 2 years, and he got the AD job at Ailey. Called and spoke to him a lot. I know he and Dad were really, really close, and took a lot of lessons and a lot of my career because of that. And they named the HSCA named our Hall of Honor after him too.
Right.
He was really involved in that for the start of the HSCA back in the day, and just he and Linda and the family really, really close.
Yeah, I my view on funerals, I think, comes from my dad. I think we both just agree it's a part of life and to celebrate the life of individuals. So I've only been to 2 funerals my entire life with my dad, and one was his dad, and the other one was Ronnie Bell.
Yeah. No, yeah. And Ronnie lit fire at Tecumseh High School. Got there at a really, really good time. They had just, when we actually, in '82 when he got there, then the next year they opened up Clements. And they really, they split it from stem to stern. And it took us a while to get back to where we had been in the '70s when we first got there. But Ronnie, I think I got kind of the patience and how to deal with that through those '80s, and how Ronnie dealt with that, the building of Clements and Kempner, and just boom, 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 how they were building those schools. But Ronnie was really, really special.
One more tidbit on that, and then we'll move on. I think it was '97 or '98. I had the privilege. Rashad Lewis was playing for the Elsa Grams. That coincided with his AD, and I had a chance to meet Rashad Lewis. And, that was a special moment because he was a Houston legend, and he went on to have a hell of an NBA career.
No doubt. He was really, really. The thing about Ronnie was everybody thought Ronnie was just football coach. He was a tremendous athletic director, and would have been probably being the athletic director in Fort Bend may have drove him completely nuts. The way that the way it was growing, A-Leaf at that time had a whole different attitude of building schools.
So 20 years, heck of a coaching tree. I think the most significant one to you is probably your boy. Heck of a coach that he is. Let's talk a little bit about your son and the influence you had on him and what he's up to, and then your coaching tree as far as bringing your assistants, your coordinators. Who have you been really proud to grow and are now head coaches around the Houston area?
Well, I of course, Josh is he played at Dulles, graduated in 2003, and went off to school and ended up at Sam Houston. Got a degree in criminal justice. Not going to go into coaching, but not one of the things he wanted to do. He wanted to go into criminal justice. Wanted to go to work for the FBI, Homeland Security, stuff like that. Yes, great. Anyway, long story short, he ends up in Connecticut working on his master's degree in criminal justice. And I go up there in the summer to see him right before he graduates. And he just sprung on, Dad, this is not really what I want to do. I'm going to get this degree. I want to go into coaching. What? Josh's grandfather coached at high school and college. Mike Dykes at East Tech at Rice, Ray Auburn, Lamar with Ray Auburn. He was a head coach at Fairland High School. We went there in '78. Joel Parker opened up May Creek High School. 81, that late, whatever. His had a lot of coaches in his life, so he was around that. But he didn't want to come back, we'll be certified and job. You'll have one by Tuesday. Dad, I don't really want to coach him. I said, where do you want to coach? You want to be a junior high coach? What do you want to do? He said, I want to coach in college. I flipped out, all here. I said, what? Why? He said, I just want to coach in college. So he ends up, finishing up there, goes to the AFCA in Dallas. Of course, he knows a lot of folks. Ends up going to work for Hal Mummy. We've all heard the name Hal Mummy. And Hal was at McMurray at this time in Abilene. And Josh,
when he was at McMurray, I got the Mike Leach experience. He was down here in Houston at Glazier Clinic speaking, and that's when the whole clinic was at like one of the big Hiltons. And I sat drinking with Hal Mummy till about 1 a.m. with him just drawing things on napkins.
He Hal's something else. So Josh goes to work for Hal Mummy, right? And I'm okay. Well, this is really going to take. Murray, he's working for $500 a month. A bed in a room, about the same amount of money. Working crazy hours. He's the assistant offensive line coach to Mason Miller. Mason Miller is that on that. Just he was his last stint was at Mississippi State with Coach Leach as his offensive line coach. He was with Coach Leach, offensive line coach at Washington State. They go way back to play for Mummy and all that. So, so he's working for Mason as the assistant offensive. A linebacker job opens up. Josh calls me and says, "Hey, there's a linebacker job open. I'm going to try and get it." And I said, "You work for Hal Mummy. Why would you ever want to be on the defensive side of the ball? You need to learn that offense." And he said, "Yeah, Dad, but I really want to get my own room, and I really like defense." And so he ended up getting the job, and became the linebacker coach. And Hal gets fired the next year. Mason gets the job. Josh works for Mason for a year. Mummy ends up getting a job at Belhaven in Jackson, Mississippi. Josh leaves Abilene and goes to Jackson, Mississippi as Hal Mummy's defensive coordinator. And he was with Hal 4 years at Belhaven University in Jackson. And they end up getting let go at Belhaven. So Josh is looking for a job. He's, newly married, brand new girl, and ends up back to Texas. Lucky enough to get on at SMU with Sonny as an analyst, and was there for 4 years at SMU, and then Sonny goes to ECU, and Josh had the opportunity to either stay or go, and ended up making what he feels like a choice, going to TCU, and that's where he is now. He's working with Joe Gillespie in the linebacker. So, but extremely proud. What a great year we had. We all drove out to Phoenix because Southwest killed our flights. So we driving, my wife 2,400 in the cab of my red truck, riding with me, and we came out of that a lot. And out to Los Angeles for a national championship game. Pretty special. Really, really proud of him. He's come a long way, and he's a great player.
That's awesome.
Good, yeah. So, just coaches around the area. Chris Call worked for me. Chris.
I love Chris, man. He handles my life insurance.
Of course he does. So Chris played linebacker for me, and
Okay.
he was my coach a lot of things. My linebacker coach. I ended up moving. He's assistant linebacker coach. And I told him, I said, you'd make a great offensive line coach. He looked at me like, "Coach, I've never even put my hand on the ground." I said, "Well, we're not putting our ground anymore either." And so I ended up moving into offensive line, just an offensive line coach. He learned how to coach offensive line and was as good an offensive line coach as I ever had. And probably the biggest thing, and you know this also, working with offensive linemen a special thing as far as not everybody can do that.
Yeah.
Everybody can bring those guys together the way that a good offensive line coach can, and they really probably the hardest position to coach and the hardest position to play, and the hardest position to get any significant recognition for in the offensive line. And so you really got to get a lot of work out of those guys and really love on them and hug on them and show them how much you appreciate them while you're pulling your boot out of the butt. And he was outstanding, and he was just so good at that. And he was my strength coach. He was my equipment guy. And when I ended up hiring him, he lived in Pearland all this whole time. And so I graduated from Pearland High School. So he made that drive. And I retired. He said, "Well, Coach, I'm leaving too." He said, "They got an offensive line job open in Pearland. You know Tony Heath. Tony really, really well. He said, you think you can help me?" And I said, "I'll try." So he ended up getting the offensive line job down in Pearland. Was there. I'm still there. I just learned back in December that he's actually teaching English at Pearland High School. He's not coaching. He's just teaching English, and he was a great English teacher. Which is hard to believe. If you'd have known him when he was young, teaching English. But he's really good. He's great with kids, and I understand he's really good at helping people with their money too.
Yeah, I got there right after he got out, so
Right.
He was on the way out, but he was the head powerlifting coach.
Yes.
And so I went in and I knew nothing about powerlifting. We didn't have powerlifting in any district I had ever worked in. I didn't know what a squat suit was. And man, not only did he help me out with all that, but he helped me out kind of get to know the offensive line kids. He helped. He always came and judged when we had powerlifting competitions. He'd show up, just give him a couple slices of pizza, and he would help out. So I really appreciated him. And I know the guys that were part of the Tony Heath staff thought very highly of him.
He was really special, and I hire him again in a minute in a heartbeat. But so you go, Chris, and then of course I coached with with Jim Smith, who's the New York Life and all that. We coached together. Charles Burton was my coordinator, who was like Travis. He just got the job at Austin, I believe. Just different coaches. Bill Gary's, offensive coordinator at Seven Lakes, was at Ridge Point for a little bit. Just different coaches. Some of them are still coaching. Some of them are not. I've been gone from Dulles for right at 10 years now, and I think I have maybe one coach left on that staff. And now, a lot of them are just kind of spread out doing different things.
When you were a head coach, could you tell, like, okay, I made a pretty good hire here, and I think this person's going to be special? Or was it more of they had to come to you and tell you what their goals and ambitions were? Or, how'd that kind of work as you're trying to help these guys grow?
I think I try to do it more by example and helping them or understand that, coaching is difficult anyway, and any sport, football, as much or more than any of them, because of what we have to go through, just the being outside in the heat and the cold, and just whatever the conditions are, and just so tough a game. But to get kids to really respond and for them to understand, do those things for you, or for themselves and for their teammates, you got to, they've got to know that you really, really care. That you care for them, not just as a football player, but as a person, and that you show that you can, and I would tell, and I did this all the time. I may, really be eating somebody's tail, but before they left the field house that day, I was hugging their neck, and 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 they knew that I cared about them. I expected that, and tried to show that to the coaches too. You just can't, beat, and
Right.
they're, that's somebody else's child. You're raising them, and as a coach, you need, and as a football coach, you got to be, you got to be tough. But they also got to know that you're doing that, to make them, better people, and also better football players, and you do that through love, not just doing it all the time. So that was real big for me. Also, there were times coaches would ask if they could come in and meet, have meetings when I had things like that, come in and sit in on those. But I think it's some people, some coaches aspire to be head coaches. I never really, thought about being a head coach until I really became a head coach. It's funny how that was. I was so wrapped up in just all the other things that I never really thought about, even being a head coach, or if I really was ever going to get the opportunity to do that. And a quick story on this one: when Ronnie left in '82, I was actually going to go to Elkins as the defensive coordinator. Andy had gotten that job the year before, and we had worked together.
Andy Bolin,
who had left after they opened up Elkins in '93, and or '92, I guess. And so I didn't go with them then. But when Ronnie ended up leaving, I was going to go to Elkins as the coordinator, and I went in to tell the principal that I was going to go to Elkins to be the defensive coordinator. And he told me in his office, he said, "Well, if you leave and go to Elkins and you're no longer a viable candidate for the head coaching job at Dulles High School." I hadn't even applied for the job. Didn't really hit me at the moment, but he kind of looked at me and said, "You understand what I'm saying? If you take that job, then there's no chance of you getting this job here." Go back to the field house, and I called Andy. Andy, I think I'm going to apply for, 3 years later and whatever, I ended up getting the job. So it just goes to show that people see things in you that you don't necessarily know that you have until you get that right opportunity. And if I would have ended up at Elkins, I don't, who knows what would have happened. But I was very fortunate that occurred, and 20 years later. So it's funny how
you're always interviewing, always.
Yeah. You really, really are, and when you stay, and coaches never back in the day spent they were leaving 5 years gone, you were hired or go get another job, and it especially in multiple school districts, people are moving on, and getting divided up. But we had a very special thing going at Dulles High School. I would call it wasn't Fort Bend ISD to me. It was Dulles ISD. And the 47 that whole complex was kind of around, the world, being the flag, and so forth. So, but that was big. But I always, I would try to explain to the coaches that you have to be, true to yourself, and treat kids the way that you want your kid. If you were a dad, your son's out there and they're coach, hollering and screaming and nothing. There was no praise, just cussing and raising head the whole practice. How would you feel? How would you praise your son?
Right.
Because feeling well, and it's quick. And if those parents know that you really care about your kids, that you're trying to make those kids better, then they're gonna jump on board too. So as a coach, you realize that parents always best the best children. We don't coach in order. We parents are involved in things too. Probably more.
Right. So it's been 10 years, right? Retirement. So you stepped off that Viking ship. Okay. But you're still very involved in the GHFCA, high school athletics, the Bayou Bowl. What do you enjoy now in your day to day that you couldn't do when you were the head coach? And
Right.
professional golfer, I guess you probably go down to the country club and hustle everybody.
I like I like to play golf. We live out here at Weston Lake, so I play golf but I'm still doing touchdown club, the player of the year stuff. I'm on that committee. Have been since I guess 96, 97. GHSTA. Bayou Bowl is just out for in Bayou Bowl season right now. Got teams picked for all that stuff. That thing. But if it wasn't for GHSCA and Bayou Bowl, I wouldn't have it here. You know how coaches are in their gear. Everything I own's got GHSCA or Bayou Bowl on it. So, but I'm real involved with that. The grandkids go up to either SMU, Jackson, Mississippi, the Bellhaven, and Josh's coach. Kind of following that a lot. In Austin, works for Apple, so to try to get up there. Have some down in Danbury, outside of Angle, and Stephanie and Reed, a grandson that's 11. He's playing select baseball, so I'm involved. Go to that every other weekend. So just trying to stay busy and be involved, and just those. So, yeah.
What do you think it would take for the city of Houston, or for I don't even know. And I wasn't even going to ask you this, but you got me thinking about it earlier when we were talking about the dome. What would we have to do to renovate it, to make it nice, and make it like a central hub for high school football, and not just for playoff time, but Katie's playing Cinco Ranch, we're going to do it in the dome. You know what I'm saying? Pearland's playing Pearland Dawson, we'll do it in the dome.
Have to get rid of that stuff that causes cancer. All in the building.
Yeah, I know that.
That's the stuff.
Or ACLs.
Yeah, we
a lot of ACLs left on that turf.
When we were a one stadium district in Fort Bend, building high school, played a lot of our games in the Astrodome, and it had what a great facility at the time, way before. But it's wish things were like that. We don't get to do those games like that. And I think that's people don't know. It's a different thing. Yeah. Excuse me, but the Astrodome would be a great place to I don't know if the rodeo still does with that or not.
No, I don't think so. It would take someone like Mattress Mac to just put several $1 million into it and be like, I want to see North Shore and CE King. When they play a district game, we're going to make it a neutral site. And just every week, we're going to have 2 games on Friday. We'll have a 5 o'clock and a 9 o'clock. Right, premier game, and then we'll have 3 Saturday games, and we'll do that through the playoffs. That would be freaking unreal.
Something like Vince Young did to them back in the day when senior year. What a great game! What a great back when we did all the time, and that you do that at NRG too, also, but it's just, you know, they don't. It's just, I don't know. It's different. Just,
It is different.
I think it's just different than it was. I don't know. Can't explain why. And I know it's not the excitement. You know, people love their high school football, no doubt about it. But it's just not a venue that's as available. I think.
Right.
I don't know that teams really look at, you know, uh, in our like we used to look forward to. You know, you thought your season was this game and stuff. That was the goal. They're play in the dome and you know kids would lay out on 50 yards line, look up at you know, and you think you don't get that.
Right.
You know, they're a lot better.
All right, Coach. 4th and 4. Here we go. The finale. And you hit on this at the beginning. 2 minutes left on the clock. You got no timeouts. You got the ball. You're down 5 on the 50. It's 4th and 4. What's your thought process, personnel, formation, and play?
Well, I tell you, and I'm going to go back to 15 or we're playing Madison for not Philly Stadium. We're in Trump Stadium, and it's a Friday night first playoff game, and we come down to that. It's not 4th and 4. It's actually like 4th and 11, and we're on the 48-yard line. Offensive coordinator. So you got 4th and 11 play. We're winning. Coach everything. I really don't. I said, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to punt the ball. Told my punter, he makes sure it doesn't go out of bounds. Get it. If it doesn't go in the end zone, 5-yard line. We knew that at that time, Madison snapping and punting the ball wasn't something they had really done real well over the course of the year. And they were really number one defense in the state. Really good on offense. And it was close. I said, so I guess we're going to punt it. So we punt the ball. We down it at the 4. And, you know, it's the, defense coordinator, we got to make them snap the football. We're going to try to run the clock. We got to, we end up stopping them. There's, we call time, like, I don't know, 4 seconds left in the game or whatever. The ball thrown in zone. We end up blocking the front. We're covering it in the end zone for a win. So we beat that. And so, we're able to go on and play. And we had several times with some of the players that we had running, whack and different formations. When you're in the wing tee, so many over, a lot of different things. But we ended up losing to Galveston Ball in the same way in the end zone in 1994. I got a picture that we ended up in a bad snap, and we just falling on it for safety. We win the game, ended up playing Drew Brees in that game against I guess what was it? He played at Westlake, whatever. But we ended up losing the game the same way we beat Matt. Bad snap. And so funny thing. I think that what you look at, plays are what you call and everything is really important. But at the end of the day, it's the players that make those plays. And so over the course of my 37 years that I coached, I mean, we make some great calls and they didn't work, and we made probably horrible calls that players made them work. And one of the things that I really found out was that the old, not the Jimmy's and Joe, X's and O's, goes. And and parents don't always see that. They want
Right.
throw the ball, throw the ball, throw the ball. Well, we can't throw the ball. Oh, we can't try to throw it. We can't. Or run it. Why'd you run it on that play? Why didn't you throw it? But it depends on those plays work the year before really well with those players, and they don't necessarily work as good this year. There's some they work fine, but they don't work this year. Why is that, coach? Well, that guy graduated, and I think that's
There was
a lot.
man, one of the first books I remember reading about coaching. It was Nick Saban's. It was I think it was published in 2006. So he's still at LSU, about to go to Miami, and he was talking to Joe Paterno. So they play Penn State, and on like the 8-yard line, they throw a bubble screen to Plaxico Burress. Should have been covered. Should have been tackled. Michigan State should have had them. They should have won.
Mm-hmm.
Plaxico Burress breaks a couple tackle scores, and Coach Saban said that was a heck of a call down there, and Paterno at that time was probably mid-'80s, maybe early '80s, and said, "Players not plays, coach. Players not plays," and Coach Saban thought so highly of that moment that he put it in his book, and I've never forgot that. I think it's called The Winning Difference or Winning Edge or something. I can't remember.
I think that, and he would be one of the first ones to say that. That's why he's such a good recruiter and recruits. Try to recruit the best players. People go after the best players because you win with the best players.
Yeah.
I think Bum Phillips, said that about Shula. If I had his and he had mine, he beat me with mine and beat his. I mean, it's just it's players that make it happen. You got to get them, you got to get them coached up and stuff. But sometimes just we all have had those players, those special players, and I know you have had those also. And when you have them, it really helps appreciate the fact that when sometimes you don't have those guys. It makes a huge difference. It makes it better than we are, and it makes it not as bad we think we are. And I one of the things that I would tell coaches, and that I had coaches ask, so how do you stay in one place for so long and don't get off? I said, because you don't make it all about you. You can't make it all about you. You can't go 12-0 and say, boy, what a great job we did, what a great job I did. Boy, you coach did this, you did all these things. Stuff. 2 years later, you're 1-9, and everybody's going, what's up? But you're the same coach. You're probably working harder when you're 1-9 than you are when you're 11-0. It seems like it makes it harder, but it's really kind of easier.
Right.
Go 1-9 and figure out how hard that is. And I've been there. I've worked hour after hour after hour after hour trying to figure out ways to do it. And when you have time, it's not hard. It becomes a little bit easier. Everything you call seems to work. You get every fumble, you get every interception, you get every call. Kind of like the season that TCU had. They got. I mean, how many times they come right down? At the very end of that, playing for again, defeated and this, and you go years. You had that situation, but you didn't get the team on the field, the extra point field goal team in time to kick that game winning field goal or Taylor or whatever. It didn't time like that. And some years you do, and some years don't. And so cherish those moments when you have that and those things are happening, and appreciate that. So hard on the fact that everybody's going to have a bad year. Nick Saban hasn't, is the talk of the world in football, and he's had his moments too. And we all Phillips is really a legend, and he had his time. So
yeah, they're 6-6 his first year at Bama.
Absolutely, and you cherish the moments you get. Played in one state championship in 37 years. One, and when we went 91, we're like, okay, well, with this, we got beat, and but we'll be back. And coaches have never played in the state championship. A lot, probably more than half.
Oh, for sure.
And some coaches, go all the time. And so it's just it's a different way to make a living, and you have to really appreciate the facts of the things that you get to do with the kids and the coaches and the faculty and the staff that you're in, that really help you appreciate what you do. And then that's when you get old and you're done, and you hear players that pop up, or you'll see them and go, what, and they'll tell you a story about something that you said to them. And so I didn't say that. Oh yeah, coach. Oh God, sorry. Oh no, coach. No, don't be sorry. I really appreciate that. I
needed it.
And we've all done that. We've all said something. I never said that. Yeah, you really probably did.
You told me the truth for the first time.
Huh?
I said you told me the truth for the first time. Yeah, you said it.
Yeah, and so when you get kids that are grown men and they're raising families, and you see them out with their families, and how they've grown, and how much they appreciate. You don't do it for this because you're not thinking about it right now. You're not thinking about the impression that you're making on kids, but you are. You don't really realize it as you're going through it until later on, and they express that to you. But you're thinking they don't like it very much because you're being so hard on them, and when they they really, really appreciate it. And so those are the things that you really appreciate when you get done doing coaching and being involved with that. I see it with volleyball all the time. So that's important to me now.
Coach, it's been a fantastic hour. Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, not at all. Just I appreciate you letting me on here. Talk to your dad. Tell him I said hello.
Yes, sir. He's probably fishing in Cabo right now. Probably about 6 Keystones in. The bar he hangs out with has the special order Keystone because they don't buy that stuff normally.
I didn't even know what a Keystone was, so I met Kip Lawrence.
So tell the listeners how to find you on social media. You've been more active on Twitter recently.
I'm not as much on Twitter, but on Facebook, I do a little bit of that. And but Red Alert,
I guess I'll I don't think I've been on Facebook. So once we get this done, I send you the promos, man. Share that stuff on Facebook. Get the message out there. You can search me on 4th and Forward Podcast on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube. And because of our last guest, we just got on Google. So appreciate you, Coach. That was awesome. I need to get on. We already had Coach Olin, but I need to get on Coach Sheffy. And that's all a tribute to you guys in 2017, the Bayou Bowl. It was an awesome experience.
Believe anything that Coach Sheffy says.
No, I believe everything he says. That makes my life a whole lot more interesting.
I know. That's funny. All right. I appreciate it.
All right, man.